Welcome to the Saving with Steve show, where we talk about the ins and outs of money, pretty much everything in the sun that relates to you having a happy, healthy relationship with money. My name is Steve Sexton. I do want to thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for sharing us with your friends and families. This has been wonderful. Folks, we've got a wonderful show for you today. You know what? We're just a few weeks into 2026. Most people have their resolutions. They're written. They're looking to make some progress. Some are like, hey, I need to get in better shape, lose some pounds. But most resolutions, besides, hey, I want to find a boyfriend or girlfriend, are focused more about the finances. We have LaChelle Johnson. She's a financial educator, federal contracts professional, first generation wealth builder, whose new book, Rise Rich, offers practical solutions that help everyday families set goals they can actually sustain. She has been featured in outlets like The Cut. LaChelle's been on podcast notes for breaking down money habits in a way that feels realistic and doable for listeners in any season. And we're just lucky to have her here. LaChelle, I want to welcome you to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you having me today.
I'm glad. Happy New Year.
New Year to you too.
You know what? I'm always interested, and our listeners are always interested about how did you start doing what you're doing? Because you have become a financial voice. What brought that on? I always find out it's something in somebody's life that kickstarted that. So what was it for you, LaChelle?
For me, you know what? I grew up without a financial blueprint. So a lot of the financial challenges that I had to personally overcome over decades of my life came through learning through trial and error and ultimately wanting to make sure I had a better, more sound, stable financial future for my children. And also, in addition to that, it was very important for me to be able to live the life that I wanted to live because I grew up witnessing a lot of struggle, a lot of challenges in my environment. I knew that I wanted to live a different life, a better life, and a life on my terms. And so I started working at the age of 14, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
I started working at the age of 14 and I went through college to obtain a undergrad degree and a master's degree while working full time.
Mhm.
Because not only did I have financial obligations of my own, I also had to try to really do the best that I could to be able to maximize my income. And so back then, that was my mindset. I thought if I could just max out on my income and increase my human life value, that I would be able to earn more, bring more, live better. But I found out quickly that's not exactly how it works. There's some mindset shifts and growing and hurdles I had to jump over. And now, fast forwarding 30 years later, I am hoping that I can bring all of the things I've learned along the way through education, just being in the lab of my own life, figuring it all out. If I could put it out in a book and help reach other first generation wealth builders with this information, the sooner the better, and hopefully make an impact and make their lives a little bit easier and a less stressful, especially from a financial perspective.
I think that's wonderful. You're the perfect example of somebody who said, hey, I'm struggling, but I don't want to struggle in the future. So what do I need to do to get there? And you did it. So congratulations. So let's start talking about financial resolutions. We all know that people get past the first 30 days and they're like, it's gone.
Yeah.
Start talking about financial resolutions that actually stick. But more important, let's talk about why people abandon those financial resolutions or many of the resolutions we make during New Year's by February 1st.
Yep. And usually they're out the window. I think when resolutions fail, it's because they're built on pressure and not purpose. And I've been saying more and more this year than ever that clarity is the new currency. So the more clear we can become when we set our vision and put some purpose behind it, the more motivated I think we are to stick with it. But if we just say, oh, I want to lose 30 pounds, and you're not really clear on what you really have to do to lose those 30 pounds. There's
Oh yeah.
a lot that has to go into that. It
Mhm.
just doesn't happen when you say it. There's so much discipline, sometimes knowledge. There's a lot more than just saying, I'm going to do this and believing in yourself. Soon enough, life happens and we reprioritize. And what happens? The resolutions fall to the bottom of the barrel. So,
I think that's really interesting how you say that because I'm equating that. And I had this interesting conversation because we just got a Peloton for my wife because she's rehabbing an ACL injury. But the interesting part about it is when I was talking to them, I ended up getting one of the refurbished ones. And she said, you know what? Many people, they go, I want to get in shape. They go buy a Peloton and it just sits there and collects dust for a year or two and is very rarely used. And then they find a way to return it. Some of them get on the payment plan and they realize, hey, this is, I'm paying for something that's not doing anything, so I'm just going to return it. And
yeah.
it's so interesting. And I bet you there's 100 of people who have just bought fitness equipment.
Steve, I commend you for looking for the refurbished one before going brand new. I bet you saved.
Yes, it was. And the interesting part is I've actually had a number of conversations with other people that I've been to their house where like they bought a Peloton and they go, oh, I used it 3 or 4 times, but I haven't used it. I go, how long have you had it? And then here's the other part. I say, if you want, I'll buy it from you. They're like, oh no, I think I might use it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know you're not, but okay. We did. I had found that out during Christmas or before Christmas, and you know, it was like, oh, they're planning to use it in the new year. So it's the resolution thing that'll get passed by again.
Yeah. And it's hard to turn it over because in the back of the mind, it's I did make a commitment to myself at some point, and I hope to get back to it. But we have to anchor our resolutions in what I would consider is what is our rich life bottom line? How do you want to feel? How you want to lose X amount of weight, but it takes more than exercise. And let's not overburden and overwhelm ourselves with this strict workout regimen going from 0 to 5 days a week to
That's
hit
gonna
this
hurt.
goal. So we burn out faster than we can like really get going and before get some tread with our goals. We are burnt out before you know it.
And you know what? One of our viewers emailed in and just says, you know, my last year's financial resolution was about cutting down what I expended and all that kind of stuff. And I realized I just wasn't doing anything. I was bored as hell because I didn't want to spend money on anything. And I barely ate anything and I felt uncomfortable. So it was like, bam. And she goes, that's a monster.
That is. And it starts to grow so much so that we start to shy away from the monster because now it feels too restrictive and it's scary and it doesn't really bring us joy. Oftentimes we feel a little more stressed because we're trying to stick to these really strict, stringent goals that might be slightly unrealistic or they're overwhelming us so much that we are like, okay, is it really worth it? Okay, now I'm going to treat myself because I've been punishing myself.
Actually, the funny thing of it that she said her last comment was my boyfriend started calling me hangry.
Hangry.
Hey, folks, we're talking LaChelle Johnson and about realistic resolutions and how to accomplish them. Stick with us. We'll be right back with more Saving with Steve. Hey, welcome back to the Saving with Steve show. We're talking LaChelle Johnson about resolutions and how to stick with them here in 2026 because most of them are gone by February 1st. But before we do that, hey, I truly want to thank you for joining us here on Saving with Steve. Appreciate you sharing this with your friends and family and associates. All the replays are available here on Saving with Steve. If you're enjoying the stories of helpful insight, information on Saving with Steve, I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Never miss a show. Check out a few of our affiliates at UK Health Radio, BBS Radio, Talk Radio in New York City, E360 TV, Las Vegas TV networks. All these networks are dedicated to empowering you to solve problems, uplift your spirit, and live a life of personal financial freedom. You know what? You can also follow us on Facebook, joining the Saving with Steve Sexton Insider Club. Go to savingwithsteve.us. You get all the replays, guest gifts, the whole shot. But I did that really fast because I want to get back to LaChelle. LaChelle, let's start talking about debt detox in 2026. And really, how do you go about prioritizing high impact wins without overwhelming yourself? Because we talked about the overwhelming part.
Yeah. And you know what? Overwhelm keeps us stuck even longer than debt itself sometimes. We get stuck in this vicious cycle. We really are looking for freedom at the end of the day. The goal is confidence, being confident in our financial situation, being very clear and in control and not punishing ourselves and having to feel so sacrificial. I firmly believe, hey, when I can give you an example. 5 years ago, my husband and I decided we wanted to make a really big move. We wanted to get rid of $40,000 worth of debt. And the only way we could realistically do that without too much pressure and just a little sacrifice was rent our home, turn that home into rental income, move with our in-laws, which was the sacrificial piece. But we saved just about an entire mortgage payment.
Oh, wow.
And that was a very bold move, but that was a big step. But we knew what the vision was. We were very clear on what our vision was, which was to pay off $40,000. So instead of saying, oh, we're going to cut back eating out and we're going to cut our subscriptions, yeah, that'll help over maybe 5-10 years. But we wanted to do it in 1 year. So it really takes being very intentional and clearly defining what it takes to reach the goals that we have set out. The more confident we'll be on attacking what that vision is.
So if we're looking to detox here in 2026, and I know people overspent during Christmas and Thanksgiving and all that getting stuff. It's so funny because one of our listeners wrote in and said, she goes, I buy Christmas gifts throughout the year for my kids, and then I forget what I got them, and I go during the sales and buy more stuff, and I just didn't realize it. And the next thing you know, my credit card's up, and I'm like, oh, how can I, stuff that people do all the time.
Been
So,
there.
okay, but how do we go about, what's the steps, simple, straightforward steps that people can use to kind of detox their debt? And I get the first step is really understanding where you're at.
That is so true. That's your roadmap. Okay. What are the balances? Where do you stand? What are the interest rates tied to these balances? Because we're paying more in interest. We could be paying more in some areas than others, right? What are the minimum payments? And then get very clear on what strategy we're going to use to tackle it. And I mentioned two of the most popular in my book, the snowball strategy and the avalanche strategy. And so pick one, the one that works best. I personally like the snowball debt elimination strategy. So when we're starting to detox, we get to feel what the quick wins feel like. We get them sooner. Okay. So we start with the lowest balance and we start to knock that off first. When we're attacking our debt, we need to prioritize from smallest debt to the largest. And then once we pay off that small one, we feel confident. And so we take what we were paying on that smallest one now. We cannot ditch minimum payments on the others. Okay. But once we hit the payoff of the small one, we're going to take what we were paying on that one, add it to the minimum payment of the one second in line, the debt second in line. And so now we are starting to snowball that effect. And we work through all of those debts and just clear them out, just cleanse as much as we can and celebrate the wins along the way.
Not by buying a new car.
Not by buying a new car.
I'm joking.
Within reason. There's so many ways to celebrate these days too.
But basically what you're saying is, hey, you know what? Your debt's a big sandwich. Okay. So you eat it one step at a time and you start seeing, you get to the point where, hey, it's half gone. This is pretty darn good. So I need to celebrate something. Maybe eat a piece of bread with something good on it. But you're slowly but sure and getting to the point where that loaf of bread's gone.
Yes,
and you're like, okay, it's gone. I'm free. And I don't have that debt bell ringing around my neck.
that's right. So you build the belief in yourself. I can do this. This isn't as overwhelming as I initially thought. You're looking at one balance at a time instead of the full total. We build up some confidence, we get the momentum, and then we have a very intentional direction. Sometimes that's what folks need is they need to set clear direction. So if we establish a strategy and a system, it helps us stay on track.
Okay, so now I'm going to take this a step forward. You set this program, you're going, okay, I want to pay off this first one, and maybe it's 6 months, but that 6 months, you got a minimum payment of a couple $100, and then you're going to have to make another $150 a month payment in order to cover it in 6 months. Okay.
Yeah. And we have to, it's so important because we can look at ways to increase our income. And there are ways that we can do that, but sometimes we don't have the time. Okay. So we also have to figure out where we can cut costs. And sometimes there's a lot of leaks that are draining households that we don't even realize. Sometimes it's not the big splurge or the celebration, the celebratory win. It's really those slow leaks, subscription creep, memberships. Instead of my gym membership, maybe I need to just go outside, go for a walk or a jog, or use YouTube as to leverage and work out with somebody who has some fantastic workout videos that are free. There are ways we can cut. And sometimes we have opportunities to reshop some expensive bills that we have, like cable versus streaming. I have friends who still pay for just traditional cable, and they have all of these devices that they pay all of these fees, service fees for all over their house, and they have 5 TVs.
Used to be.
And so now my one friend, I like to record my shows. I can't do that if I'm streaming cable. So you have to do that analysis. What works for one doesn't work for others, right? But what about like insurance policies, like homeowners insurance policies? Some folks forget all about that amount that rolls right into their mortgage payment and that they can reshop and bring that total down.
You're so right, because we saved almost $200 a month going to YouTube Live. And when you do it, they come with a whole bunch of stuff. My wife had to have her Hallmark channel. All ladies do that. And we actually added a few things in because we didn't want commercials.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just funny. And then, you know what? I've known for years. And in fact, a number of people says, oh my God, I never realized this. I've been on this policy for 20 years. And I just started realizing I can save $400, $500, $600, $700 a year. And there goes, if you think of that, it's $5, $50, $60, $70 a month that can go away and you never realize it.
Right.
And one last thing is, one of the ladies says, you know what, we have an electric Prius and we also have a truck that runs on gas. And this truck gets like 8, 9 miles a gallon and the Prius gets like 60. So what their husband and wife did is they switched cars. She stays in town and she takes the truck, but he drives 60, 70 miles a day to and from work. And it actually saved him hundreds of dollars on a monthly basis just in the reduction of gas tanks that they have to fill. So that's wonderful. A lot of times it is the little things that can make a big difference.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Those things can take us further than we even realize. Especially, I also think about the conveniences, like the impulse conveniences that we can become, subconsciously dependent on.
Hey, look,
Like,
we're going to have to take a quick break. We're going to come back and we're going to think about those conveniences that cost us too much. So stick with us. Hey, welcome back to the Saving with Steve show, where we talk about the ins and outs of money. We've got LaChelle Johnson, and we're going to talk about those things that just creep on you that cost you money.
they creep up, they tap you on your shoulder, and sometimes they scare the heck out of you. But you know what? It's always good when we can become more clear and intentional.
Oh, yeah. So when, what you were talking about, like the subscription creep, a lot of people don't realize a number of apps, the Walmart app and other things, the ease of spending is the issue.
Yes.
Because I go, you know what? this looks really good. I'll get this shirt or this sweater or this blouse or whatever. And it could be any store
Yeah.
and get it. And the next thing they've kept it and they
Hmm.
spend a bunch of money on stuff they're never going to use and they're going to go donate in 20 years.
Yeah.
And if raise your hand.
We've all been there a time or two.
But it is what it is. That's life. And the same thing happens when you sign up for one of these streaming sites that you use once or twice but never go back to because it really doesn't have the programming that you want.
Yeah.
Or you got on a delivery service that charges you a monthly fee, but you only use that delivery service maybe once every 2 or 3 months. You know what? When LaChelle talked about or we talked about eating the loaf bread by bread, you might want to look at where she talked about being intentional, more intentional. Am I really using this? Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And
So,
do I really need this? Am I using it? Do I need it? Is there a solution that might be a little bit cheaper that I can use or maybe more flexible so I'm not spending as much for this convenience? My goodness, if Uber comes up with another way to deliver something in within 20 minutes, at this point, we have some folks who not only get food delivered, they can get food, drugs, not the legal drugs like from CVS and Walgreens, but just groceries. Now Uber will go pick up just about everything, including a person to give a ride. But these things come with service fees and membership fees sometimes that can really drain a budget.
and I think the other part is about being intentional. Again, I like that because another one of our listeners, Janice out of Ohio, she basically says, I actually gave up the car because she's in downtown Columbus and she found out it's less expensive than paying $600 a month to do Uber or have a Walmart delivery, or I think there's a Costco delivery around there too as well. She goes,
Mm.
I actually spend about $300 a month between all that stuff. Then I'm not spending the 5 or 600. He goes, my only issue is I've got to find a ride if I'm going somewhere far, and I'm usually going somewhere far with friends or family. So it works out really well. So again, being intentional is a big thing. And again, Denise, thanks for sharing that story because that's
Oh, yeah.
wonderful. If you happen to
Yes.
be in a downtown somewhere, it could be a way to look at your environment and see how you can do that. Now,
Yes.
what are what are some of the things people can do that might cost them? Come on, you got your master's degree and you worked. So I know you had to manage your time very well because both of my kids did that. And it also made you a better person and somebody that I would prefer to employ. And you probably work for people that went, oh, heck yeah, I'm going to hire her because she's going to get it done. Okay. So, you know what? When you're looking at that, what are some of those things, if you know about these side gigs that people can do that but would make them some money, help them pay down some debt, and do those type of things.
Yeah, I like for people to first take a look at how they can monetize their own skills. There are things that people can do that they enjoy doing that they can monetize and they just don't realize it. They don't see it because it's a hobby or something they enjoy doing as something that they can do for money in exchange. But if you have great organizational skills, there's lots of people who need decluttering in their homes, organization in their homes, systems. I am like a system guru. Clearly, you're working and dealing with finances, and you start to when you really get into spreadsheets and manipulation, it comes naturally, right? But cooking, baking, meal prep is that's another convenience that a lot of people love to rely on. So if you like to cook, a meal prep service. There's and I know there's a lot of delivery service companies, but a lot of folks are saying, you know what? It's super easy to sign up to drive for an Uber or Lyft. So maybe I'll do that in my free time. And then I have some other clients who say, I don't really want to do that because I don't necessarily want to drive people around. But I would grocery shop. I don't mind grocery shop, and I can pick up groceries and drop them off to people for the same type of service, right? So there's just an unlimited amount of ways. Believe it or not, my mother in law, she looks through her entire kitchen pantry and her clothing closet once a year and does like a resale among friends and family. And she also has just tapped into Facebook Marketplace. So, yeah, just really try to tap in and be creative and find those ways where you can earn some extra cash and kind of enjoy it along the way.
Yeah, I was just thinking you can tutor.
Absolutely.
If you're good with finances, you can become a QuickBooks consultant.
Yeah.
You can do a number of things, even like a part-time caregiver for somebody who's ill or ailing, if that's something that you're open to.
Yes. And there are so many different ways. I always to reinforce that we are our own greatest asset. So the training, the knowledge, any interest that you have, learn more about it.
Mhm.
Figure out where there's weaknesses and where you can build up weaknesses in your own in yourself, whether it's communication or writing or another skill that could be monetized potentially, and get the training needed to enhance it and then monetize it from there.
That's great. I think that's great advice for people who just don't know where to start. Back in my 20s, I had the issue of overspending. So I worked an 8-hour day and then I was a doorman at night. So
Mhm.
that made me the extra money to pay off the bills and all that stuff. And I didn't sleep a lot, but I got it done. So all I'm saying is if there was the internet and all those type of things and the ease of being able to do some type of gig employment, I probably would have done that if it was a few years later.
Mhm.
That gets my
Yeah.
age. But you know what? Let's also talk about health and health ailments and wealth ailments and how financial stability really starts helping somebody with their well-being.
And we hear all the time, Steve, health is wealth. You can't really build wealth with a body that's essentially burned out and overburdened with stress. And so it's directly tied. Financial stress can show up as anxiety, poor decisions, fatigue, avoidance. And a lot of times it's looked at as a luxury in most budgets. People aren't really even carving out the necessary costs to work out or get stretched or get meditation or whatever they actually need, and really tapping into what we need from a health perspective in order to then make clearer, more conscious decisions and have the energy to be intentional and motivated to do the things that we need to do to reach our financial goals.
I, you know what, the interesting thing about what you just said, carving out funds and time, you know what, you can meditate for free and you can
Mhm.
probably find something on the internet for free about how to go about doing it and then find a meditation that helps with motivation, whatever you're looking to accomplish. You can actually go to, there's many parks now that have, I want to say, sections, or I want to say, what do you call them, silos for
Oh,
push-ups, all working your back, your legs, the whole shot. And you can just walk the park and do it, or jog the park and do it, or you can just go run. Or you know what, you can go to Play It Again Sports and get an old pickleball paddle and go to a pickleball court and go to the community ones because there's hundreds of people there because they all love to play pickleball and they're all really nice. So you can get healthy and you have the social aspect. So there's many things you can do to do that besides spending money on a membership.
that is so true.
So
Yeah.
folks, stick with us. We're right back. We're going to be talking about retirement readiness next. And especially if you're a late stage finances and all that kind of stuff, we're going to talk about that next with LaChelle Johnson. So stick with us. We'll be right back. If you're enjoying the stories of helpful insight and information on Saving with Steve, I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Never miss a show. Check out a few of our affiliates at UK Health Radio, BBS Radio, Talk Radio New York City, E360 TV, the Las Vegas TV networks. All these networks are dedicated to empowering you to solve problems, uplift your spirit, and live a life of personal financial freedom. And again, you can go to the Facebook page at Saving with Steve Sexton. There's an Insiders Club, guest gifts, all that kind of stuff. But we want to get back to LaChelle. Let's start talking about something a little more serious, retirement readiness for building late stage financial confidence. This is really important.
Absolutely. And I see retirement as it's one of these things where You're working toward it, right? But the goal is direction, right? Not necessarily perfection. So if we get realistic about what our true snapshot is, what are our expenses? But first, what is the kind of life we want to live? Ultimately, where do we want to be? What state, country, what expenses come with that lifestyle? All things considered, travel, everything. And then establish, are there income gaps once we retire? Because we know what we've saved, what we've invested, what our expenses are. And now we have to figure out, based on the lifestyle we want to live, if we have income gaps or not, right? And then in preparation for that, once you gain some clarity, of course, it's always great to maximize our contributions. So at this stage, if you're in retirement readiness stage, then catch-up contributions are there for the taking. Max out. Employer matches, they're always there to make sure we're taking advantage of if they're available to you. And really just get a very clear picture. Clarity is the new currency. The more clear you are, the more you can plan and prepare to live the life that you ultimately desire to live.
Hey, what's our ideal lifestyle? We want to live here in this town. We want to be able to travel to see our kids. We want to go overseas a couple times. We want to go to the shows, the plays, and all that stuff because we want to have a robust life. We want to volunteer. So, what is that legitimately going to cost us?
Yeah.
So, if that's going to cost us $10,000 a month and Social Security only pays for $5,000 a month, where are we coming up with the other 5,000? Maybe we have another 1,000 from a pension, but now we have to have our investments, what I call purpose money that's designed to support and maintain the lifestyle on an
That's right.
inflation adjusted basis. So how do we go about creating that?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes. Or are we going to have to make some adjustments in what it's going to cost us to live to cover our essential living expenses so that we can then leverage all of our purpose money to do the things that we enjoy? So, are we going to go down to a place where it's probably a lower cost of living so that we can then enjoy the lifestyle of traveling and eating out, dining out, and going to visit the kids and doing those things? Or is it more important to have, a little bit more of an elevated cost of living because you need certain amenities and conveniences that typically cost more? And so, because you have a more modest lifestyle, not everybody wants to travel. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said when he retires, he wants to go live in the middle of the desert. I said, that will probably not cost you that much. you
no,
know, you're probably in really good shape. You're working with a surplus, I would say, in retirement.
I actually like what you said because you know what? I live in the state of California. We have the largest exodus of people moving out of the state of California. And yes, this state's very expensive, but I know of a couple who actually lived in the Orange County area. They were grinding it out their whole life and they had started traveling to Tennessee because their kids were there. And they ended up liking the Tennessee area. And what they ended up doing is they realized, you know what, we just sold our home for $1 million. Okay. We're going to get about 800,000 after the taxes and everything. But they also ended up buying a home for cash on a 5 acre plot. It's a 2,500 square foot home with a 1 acre catfish pond. It was a farm actually. And basically they pay somebody to manage the catfish farm. It makes them a regular income and they have all this extra money left over to invest to create an income. And now they have the lifestyle that they were looking for. And even it's more robust than they ever thought. So folks, you don't have to stay in your hometown.
That's it. Yes,
You know what?
that example hit the nail on the head because sometimes we get comfortable and content, but there's so much more. So it's important to expose, to get out and to travel and see what it's like to live in other areas. And what better way to do it is by going to visit family or friends in other states.
One of the other things that some of our listeners wrote in on is they said, you know what? Both of us been working. Well, this is the consensus.
Mhm.
Both of us have been working for a number of years. We spent whatever we spent and never really paid attention to it because we always had the money coming in. And all of a sudden we retire and we really never thought about how much we actually spent. And we went, oh my.
Yes. Yeah.
So when LaChelle says, really understand the lifestyle you want and exactly what that's going to cost, that will pay off in spades because a few people said, hey, we had to do some financial surgery for us about the lifestyle, how we go about doing it. We actually went back to work part-time and that was not in the plans, but we had to do it in order to get to where we needed to be. We realized we were a few years short of where we needed to be and had to go back to work. But you know what? They tried to do it during a time where there was a lot of layoffs and things like that. So the companies weren't accepting back. So they had to go find something else. And that was really an eye opener for somebody in their 60s.
Proper planning prevents poor performance, but I'm not going to say proper planning is important. And we want meaningful financial security. And we can't wait until it's time to move out on retirement. We have to plan line by line, bit by bit. And just like you said, Steve, bite by bite of that sandwich. We have to know what our situation looks like, what we desire it to be, and how we're going to get there.
You know what? Act like your own employer and put yourself on a performance improvement plan for your finances, for your retirement, so you can get to where you need to be.
Yes.
The thing is, you can't fire yourself from that.
Yes. But we want to make sure we're living in alignment with what the lifestyle goal is, right?
Oh, I totally agree with that. So, you know what are the big things that people need to focus on? And after that, please let people know how they can get a hold of you, how they can get a hold of your book, the whole shot.
All right. Top 3 things. Check your money. Get clear on what your income is and what your expenses are. And if there needs to be shifts or any changes in money, your calendar, your time, how are you spending it? Because it is just as costly as just about anything, any budget line that you may have. We don't get that back. So let's make sure we're making wise and intentional decisions on how we spend our time, because our time can help increase our bottom line if we use it the right way. And our energy. We talked about health. Health is wealth. And so check your energy. Make sure that you are pouring into yourself just as much as you're pouring out into other people, endeavors, the job. Because if we don't have our health, we can't really function at our optimal self. We can't get our budget in alignment. And if we did need to get a side gig, we won't have the energy to do that. So let's check our money, calendar, and our energy. And I'd say do that at least weekly.
I agree, because time is money. And if you don't have the energy, you're not going to be able to make the time or the money.
There you go.
So, LaChelle, how could people get a hold of your book? And if somebody would like to reach out to you as a financial educator to help educate them or help them with what they're doing, how can they go about doing that?
Yes, my book is available anywhere you buy books online. And I can be reached at wealthbuildinglab.org. And my website has just about all information you can get on me, my book, my tools, the Rise Rich framework, and how to reach me directly.
LaChelle, I want to thank you for being here today. This has been fun. And more importantly, you're able to share some pearls of wisdom that really are going to help our listeners. So with
Thank you
that,
so much.
folks, we're almost wrapping up another show, but I want to share a few things with you. And we're off to an interesting start to the year. The news is creating this narrative where the administration is willing to do anything and everything to force the Fed to start aggressively easing monetary policy, which means reducing interest rates. Okay. You're here on the other side. They say they're not. All they're looking to do is an inquiry. Okay, whatever. At the end result, if they are pressuring, this could be a raging hot economy with another round of inflation. It's not a coincidence that gold and silver are erupting higher while this plays out. It's not a coincidence the value of the dollar is going down, which means things are costing more. Like I said, it's not a coincidence the dollar is taking a hit. Now, the big thing here to understand with all this is you have a window to prepare for what's coming because Powell term ends. The Federal Reserve most likely be under the control or pressure of the administration. And I've been saying this since 2026. You know what? The 2026 year will be dominated by uncertainty. Now is the time to ensure that the guardrails are tightly appraised around the income that supports and maintains your lifestyle, as well as your legacy, meaning your portfolios. So that way, whatever this uncertainty is, you're prepared to deal with any bad that comes, any uncertainty that comes, and can take advantage of the good. So, folks, I do want to thank you for joining us today. LaChelle was just wonderful. Go to our website, check her out. Go to our website at savingwithsteve.us. With that, I want to thank you all for joining us today. Wish you all a wonderful next week, and we look forward to talking with you shortly. Bye-bye.